After completing Unit 1 in web design, this is what you should know. First, we've been using the program called liveweave.com. You want to make sure that anytime that you start a new website that you are saving it and you're starting with a brand new page. So it should say Hello Weaver when you get here. If you don't see that and you see one of your previous pages, meaning the web address has numbers and letters after it, that is going to be a page that you've already published and turned in. So you want to make sure you go to a new tab, exit out of this one, and start one that is fresh. So when I get started on here, I always want to delete everything that they give you in the code so we can start completely from scratch. And we learn the basic structure of a website, which is what you guys should know after doing these first two lessons, the JProp Shop, as well as Math High Review. So starting with declaring the doc type, which is written like this, followed by our opening and closing HTML tags. Okay, and then inside of our HTML tags, we have two major groupings. One is going to be the head of the document. Remember, the head is going to have information like the title and the author, nothing that appears on the actual website itself, but things that the browser or search engine can use to pull from. It is also where you can link to other attachments like style sheets or JavaScript within the head. The body goes next. The body is where all of the information that you want to actually appear on your website is going to be. So notice that nothing is on my website yet, even if I go in and add my title to the head, nothing is going to appear on my actual website itself. But if I go inside of those two opening and closing body tags and I add my header, now you're going to start to see the changes appear on your website. So out of this first lesson, you should know this basic structural setup of HTML language, and we should know how to start plugging in those elements inside of the body and inside of the head to make a standard website. Now that we've talked about the basics, let's go ahead and go over the review website that you all did on your own, Math High. Now, if you're a little bit stressed out about coding right now, don't worry. I know this is your first website that you've done by yourself, so it's okay. You'll get the hang of it. If anything, make sure you know that structural setup that I just went over, and you will be good to go on to our next lesson. Okay, so looking at our Math High review, the first step is opening up our files, which we are going to be working on LiveWeave, so that's all you have to do for that. Number 2 is inserting the doc type, so that's what I started with before. Declaring the doc type is written like this. Okay, step number 3 is enclose the contents under the doc type in the opening and closing HTML tags. So again, HTML and closing HTML. Number 4 is add the head and body elements to this file. So we're going to go ahead and add the head first. And underneath the head, we're going to add those body tags again. All right, number 5, within the head of the document, insert the comment. So remember, the comment is going to be something that's invisible on your website. Again, everything that you don't want to show up goes inside of the head. And the comment is written like this. Please make sure that you add in the opening and closing tags for this comment correctly. You should see that it turns green, but you don't want it all to stay green afterwards when you're done. So let's make sure I close it correctly here at the end. Okay, and you can see now that I have closed that correctly that everything else that is on my page is still highlighted correctly. Although for some reason it added an extra head tag, you can see that it's highlighting here that that was incorrect. So I'm going to go ahead and delete it to make sure that I only have one. Step number 6 is asking us to add the title into the document inside of the head. So again, this is something that you're not going to see on your website, but it goes in the head so the browser can pull from it. So I'm adding in title. It automatically closes it, and adding in Math High with the author's name. Again, still notice that nothing is showing up on my page. Going to step number 7, it's going to add in the character set, which is written as meta char set. This is going to allow the website to read all of those fun symbols that we started to use on our last website. If you remember, the and bull adds bullet points and hearts add hearts on your page. So any of those fun symbols with the kind of coded letters and numbers and symbols are going to be read using this. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that and put it inside of the head of my document. Make sure we close that. Now please double check that all of your text afterwards is not orange. This is a common mistake that will happen as you're adding something in that has an equal sign with the quotations afterwards. If they're not handwritten by you or directly next to each other, sometimes it will not read it correctly and it'll actually turn the rest of your coding orange and not work properly. So double check that. If you need to, just retype this by hand if you copied and pasted it to make sure that it is only showing the UTF-8 in orange. Okay. Number 8 is between the head and the body, we're linking the modernizer script. So again, this is just standard JavaScript that is going to allow certain things to happen on our page from the web browser. So I'm going to go ahead in the head again because it's not something in our page that we want to show up. This is another one you want to double check that the orange is staying inside of the quotes. Okay. And we would also link the style sheet in here, which is step number 9. However, since we are using liveweave.com, it automatically links the style sheet that's included in our page, which is going to be down here, to our HTML page that is in this top left-hand corner. And it also links the JavaScript if you add any additional Java over here on the right-hand side. So you don't have to worry about step number 9. It's not going to make any changes to your website because we're not making that external style sheet right now. Okay, number 10, after the body element, we're going to insert the opening and closing header elements. We're going to also insert the MH logo image, which remember is not going to show up on our page right away. Unless we were to download this file and add it into our folder to actually publish it, because there's no way to upload images through liveweave.com. But go ahead and add it anyway so you can see where it's going to go. And it's telling us here at the end the correct code to be able to insert that image, which is img src equals. Again, I would write out anything that has the equal sign in the quotations just to make sure it's going to read your images or whatever you're linking correctly. So inside of our body, finally, it's something that we want to show up on our website. We're going to add in our header. Okay, and inside of the header, I'm going to link that image. And notice that it says alt equals. If your image ever doesn't show up on your website, the browser can't load it fast enough, there's an error with something, having an alternate text on there is a good thing so that that text will show up instead of the image on your published website. So notice that it's doing that right now. It's saying Math High because that is my alternative text and it's not able to pull that image correctly. Number 11, after the closing header element, add the article element before the page text. So inside of my body, I'm going to go ahead and add article. And inside of my article, there's going to be some text here. Okay. Number 12 is mark the first line in the article containing the title here as an H1 heading. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this as an H1. Remember with our heading tags that the smaller the number, the larger the font is going to show up. So something like this, which is the title, we want to make sure that it's nice and big. Okay, and then we're going to block the next 3 blocks of text separately in paragraph tags. So we want to create 3 paragraphs after this. So to save you a little time here, instead of trying to type out the paragraph text that you can see that we created those paragraphs for, and it is actually at the bottom of the page here. If you look at MH text HTML file right here, this is going to be all the text from the document that doesn't have the tags around it yet. So if you open up that file in Word, or you can open it as a Google Doc, it's going to look like this, and we can take the text then and put it into our paragraph tags that we just defined. So looking at our answer key here, you can see where the text goes if you want to grab it from there, or you can go to the top of the page and see what the final website is going to look like in the browser once it's hosted. So you can see again where the paragraphs start and end to be able to grab, copy, and paste that text. So starting with the greatest and ending with as well is my first paragraph. You can see that I have highlighted here. So grab it, Command-C on the Mac and Control-C on a PC or Chromebook, and we're going to paste that in our opening and closing first paragraph tags, and that's Command-V or Control-V. Going to my second paragraph, it starts with he and ends with time. So again, Command-C or Control-C and Control-V or Command-V to paste that. And same thing with my last paragraph. Again, double check that it ends with or starts with 1 and ends with mathematics. And don't close out of this text yet, because you will be using this for the aside section to copy this last bit once we get there. So I would just minimize this for now, and you can see that on our website we have our defined paragraphs. All right, so that was step number 13. Going down to step number 14, within the first paragraph, we're going to mark the names using the strong element. So remember, strong is going to define it as bold. So let's go ahead and find the names in here. Here's our first one. Strong, and then make sure my closing strong goes on the opposite side. Okay, and now I'm looking for Jean. And again, that closing strong on the opposite side. Okay, so that was 14, going down to step number 15 here. In the second paragraph, mark the phrase with cite around the outside of it. So we're going to be looking for this phrase that it's giving us right here, as well as the second part right there in citation tags. So here's my first one. Close my citation. And my second one. And again, closing right after that date. So 2 sets of cite tags inside of that second paragraph is step number 15. Number 16, enclose the next section of text from the line, the most beautiful theorem, up to but not including the line math high. Okay, so the next section, we're looking for the most beautiful theorem right here. So it is asking us to include everything that is inside of this aside section to be in aside tags, asking us to stop before the footer. It's not defined yet, that's going to be a further step, but where it says math high here at the bottom, a site for educators and researchers, that is going to be left out of that aside section. So right now I have the most beautiful theorem, so we're going to add my first aside tag here. And we can go ahead and grab that second aside tag and put it afterwards, but we're going to need all of that text that goes inside. So let's go back to that document that we had open, and we're going to grab everything after the beautiful theorem, except for that footer. That's going to be that math high footer. Copy it and put it right after the most beautiful theorem. And while we're here, we know that after the aside section is going to be our footer, so I'm going to go ahead and grab that on this step as well. So we have our text for our footer. So that last part here, math high, a site for educators and researchers, Control C. Make sure it's outside of that aside tag, and I'm going to paste that in. Okay, so now I can go to step number 17. Which is mark the text, the most beautiful theorem, so that title of this aside section as an H1. So again, right outside of it, we're going to give it an H1 and ending with another H1. Okay, so on my page you should see now that is nice and bold, and it's also the same size as the H1 from the top. Number 18, mark the next 5 blocks of text using individual paragraphs. So again, you can look on our example here to see where the paragraphs are going to go, or if it's easier, you can go down to the key here and see exactly where those paragraphs are going to divide. So you can see here, I'll do it on the key this time, that it wants the Euler's equation to be the first paragraph. Make sure if it drops that closing P too soon that you move it. Control X or Command X cuts instead of copies. And then Control V still to paste. Bump that down to the next line. Remember, spaces don't matter on here, but it's nice to keep things organized. Okay, our next paragraph is going to go from our COS all the way to our E, or IX. So right here, paragraph tag opening, grab that ending P and bump it to after the IX. Okay, our next paragraph starts at demonstrates, and it's going to end with identity. Right here. Okay, our next one is going to start with E and end with 0. So here's E and 0. Okay, and then here our last one is going to start with which and end with mathematics, so our last section of text here. Okay, now we have our paragraphs defined. You can see that it now bumped those into separate pieces, just like our website at the top here has these as separate pieces. Step number 19 is asking us to mark the journal name in citation tags. So if you ever are having a hard time finding things once you have a lot of text on your page, remember that you can always do Control F or Command F to find a specific part of your page. So if you start typing in the name of the journal, it'll actually highlight the journal right on your page so it's easier to locate. So here I'm going to add citation tags. Okay, and then number 20 is we're going to mark the line at the bottom as a footer. So remember we copied and pasted that last line here. I'm going to give it footer tags. Okay, so now my page is fully ready to go as far as the HTML, but it doesn't look pretty yet because we don't have the CSS dividing it. So I've attached the CSS page on both Google Classroom as well as on our website here. You can always get all of the items that you would possibly need for your website here. So I'm going to download the CSS file and copy the pre-made CSS and put it in the CSS section here at the bottom of my page. Okay, on mine, my article tag, my closing article tag actually got away and ended up at the bottom of my page. So I copied and pasted it up here where it was supposed to be closing above the aside section. So what was happening is it was reading my entire page as an article, and actually this bottom section, the aside section, was showing up below. So if you see that your aside section didn't float up to the spot that it's supposed to be, go ahead and double check your article section and make sure that it is right here above your aside section. So it should be an entire piece of an article with your 3 paragraphs, and it should be an aside that has the rest of the page content and the footer at the bottom as your page division. And you can see now over on the right hand side, looks just like the JProp shop that we completed already with that aside section, our color change in the background of both the aside as well as the footer. When your website is completely done and you're ready to turn it in, don't forget to hit the save button. Really hit save as much as you want as you go, just to double check that it's going to save for you. You should see the progress of saving in that bottom right hand corner. Mine's cut off on the screen right now so you can't, but there's a little green bar that says saving, and then it should automatically change the LiveWeave address to an address that now has those numbers and letters after it, defining a specific address that you can turn in. Never just submit liveweave.com, otherwise it'll take me just to a blank page. So with this code afterwards, after I hit save, you can copy it, Control C or Command C, and on Google Classroom under our assignment, go ahead and click Add or Create, and you're going to upload that as a link. Paste it in, click Add Link, and don't forget to hit Turn In, and you are all set.